Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Magicians. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode. Obviously, the group is mostly kind of reunited in this episode. Obviously, Morena had set up the whole situation. Lucky for her, Julia told her that, the Morena in this timeline ended up dying by the hands of a god, so she came prepared. And so I was wondering whether Margot was going to do it or not, because all she had to do was ring the bell. But then I was like, oh, she didn't do it. I wonder why. It's like, all right, because the last time a god-killing thing was used, all it did was kill the host. It didn't kill the monster inside, especially this thing, which can jump bodies. So it's like, yeah, it makes sense, because all she's trying to do is protect Elliot, because Elliot might still be in there. And it's like, oh, I know what you're looking for. You're looking for a god. Well, I know exactly where one is. And I'm like, poor Bacchus. And because it turns out that is, in fact, why he ran to Earth, because there's a monster. And he ran to Fillory because there's a monster looking for him. So Josh gets brought along because Josh points out the fact is like, oh, Bacchus is a friend of his. I even love the monster inside of Elliot being like, okay, go in there, poison him. Okay. Oh, and also if there's pizza in there, bring me back a slice, essentially. Okay. I also liked that it was kind of in this interesting moment where it actually bonded with Margot for a little bit, because, you know, Josh kind of calls Margot out because it's like, oh, it's like you could be such a great friend one minute and kind of a shitty one the next, because it's like pushing him into that situation where he has to betray a friend while she's doing all this to save her friend and everything. You know, Elliot might still be alive in there, so we have to do whatever it takes to potentially save him, know that he's in there, which they don't even know for sure. But it's interesting because it's like I'm like you, and I never thought I'd have so much in common with a human. But the fact of the matter is, you're lonely and I'm lonely too, having to be stuck with your own thoughts. But it's like, hey, this body of yours, this body belonged to Elliot, and it's like, he was your best pal. It's like, hey, we could be best pals because we're just alike and stuff like that. She's like, yes, I will do this for Elliot. I will help you, but I'm not going to be your best friend. And so it's also interesting because it knows too. It's like, oh, why would I leave this body? I like the way I like the way people look at me. It's because it's Elliot's body. In some twisted way, it's like, oh, they're looking at me like that, like I'm someone important to them, I'm precious to them. But it also kind of lends itself to the fact is he's holding, Elliot hostage too, because as long as I'm in his body, you do whatever I say. So he's kind of the monster's insurance policy. But I love the whole situation with Josh. Him and Bacchus talking and stuff like that. Josh being the party bug the party animal that he is, and so is Bacchus, and it's just like, that's his, it's good bud and everything. And I think it's, I'm sure Josh wouldn't feel right doing it to anyone else anyway, sacrificing anyone, but especially because Bacchus is someone that he knows. But then lo and behold, it turns out, Josh didn't want to do it, and he actually didn't until Margot was like, yo, it's time to pussy up. You need to do this. She's like, if I have to, I will pour this in there for everyone to drink. But Josh is like, you don't know what that'll do to everyone. I don't care. We need to get this done. And it's kind of interesting because it seems like this is playing into what Lord Fresh brought up. The fact of the matter is that she will roll along because she'll learn the hard. I think. Because it's interesting, too, because it's like, oh, Margot's kind of going a little harsh. I mean, for one, she's willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that she's able to be in a position to save her best pal, Elliot. But also at the same situation, I think it's like, if I don't do this, we're literally all going to die. So I have to kind of do this for our sake as well. So I think it's that situation of once again, and it kind of plays into what I brought up last episode about the fact that she's gonna have to roll alone. I was like, I kind of got the feeling like Elliot might not make it through this, and this, maybe that's even more reason why she's pushing forward with all of this, because there's a chance that Elliot might not make it through all this. And so it's kind of interesting. We do kind of find out more, sadly, Josh went back and poisoned Bacchus. He was about to tell him a secret. He's like, I'm wondering, was it just going to be like, oh, maybe something about himself or something. It's probably going to be something personal. Maybe there was something, some big secret he was going to reveal. But the monster gets its hands on Bacchus and it's like, you stole something from me. And it's like, once again, it's memories of who it is and what it is. Because he's even going it's almost like sad in a sense, because the monster's like, we both have the same parents, so why are you a god and I'm a monster? Because it's like, you don't remember what you did, which is like, what did it do? I guess it went on a kind of killing spree or something. Maybe it killed a whole bunch of gods and it got punished for that or something. I mean, to be fair, we see what happens to humans when they kill a god. They got magic taken from them, which is interesting. Well, I guess because it's a little different, because it's like, humans are ants, they're insects to the gods, but this thing is on par with the gods, so it's too much of a to let, just let loose, so that's why they locked it up. In particular, it seems like at the very least one of the people behind it, who knows if there were other gods involved, but it seems like Bacchus is the one that locked it up in the gas zone. And it's like, you took what I had, like it's inside of you, and it reaches inside and pulls something out. Like, I guess that's all of its memories in particular, because it seems like not all of its memories were taken, at least some of them. That's the question, why those in particular? I guess maybe they were aiming specifically so its identity would be taken away. Maybe all the memories of what it did are connected to who it is. So when it's like, oh, when we're taking out this giant chunk of its identity, everything related to that identity was stripped away. So maybe it has something to do with its parents, its family, maybe siblings that it has that were taken away when its identity was taken away. Because that's why I'm like, because it doesn't know about where it came from or who it is or what its name is. That kind of lends itself to the whole aspect of like this thing not really having a name and all of that. So what was really interesting though is whatever it was, Margot couldn't even look at it because she was like, it's like for her fairy eye, it's like staring into the sun. So it's like, that must be like a heavy concentration of magic or something, which is crazy to consider. The fact is, like, I mean, what is that though? Like, because it is a god level thing. So maybe whatever it is he's pulling out, Bacchus, maybe what he pulled out was Bacchus's godhood, that little spark that was kind of in Julia, maybe that's all that there is of a god that it's taken from us. So when it's maybe the gods took fractions of its power too. Like, this thing might be even more powerful than what it already is. That maybe when they left it in the powerful, like maybe they couldn't take all of its powers. So maybe along with taking some of its memories, they did. Maybe it wasn't just its memories, but they also took literal pieces of it too. So maybe you could look at it as like, maybe that's one of its organs. Like maybe that's like, oh, that's a kidney filled with all of its powers. Like maybe that's what a lot of the gods. Maybe there was a set of gods that all took a portion of that power, or maybe all the gods did. I mean, we don't know how many of like the old gods there are in this situation. So I mean, what's interesting too, because let's not forget Bacchus is one of the kids. He's not even one of like the old gods. Like he's one of the kids, like Ember and Umber. So it's gonna be interesting to see what that whole situation ends up being about. But also, like I said, like what about Elliot? Like, is he actually in there? He might actually be gone, and this thing's just stringing them along, and it's kind of gonna be like, well, what was this all for? And if they can't save Elliot, but that's kind of interesting. Also, at the same time, I love Morena being who she is. It's like, yeah, you can't really count on her because she's like, oh yeah, your friends, they're probably out there being murdered, so I was going to go out for a little bit. But basically, they're working on paying her off so she doesn't turn them into the library. It's kind of interesting too, because we learn a little bit more about this whole situation, that basically there are Dewey coins. Dewey's as in like the dude who made the Dewey Decimal System, because he was a librarian, and basically the library like condenses the magic that people get, those who put in requests and stuff like that, in the form of coins with Dewey's face on it. So she wants that 5 in exchange for not turning them in, and they have to go through this whole process. Penny has to turn to his buddy Frankie, which Frankie turns out he's got this whole thing of being super lucky, and it's like, yo, things just happen to work out for him. Even at one point, Julia's like literally like, what the fuck, Frankie? And Quentin's like, did that bird literally just bring you a sandwich? He's like, yeah. It's like, it's literally in a bag and everything. It's like, what the hell? It's like, luck is his discipline. But I do like that there is there has to be a balance to everything, with all the extreme luck he has, all the bad luck that he essentially kind of builds up with all the extraordinary good luck he has is sent into a teddy bear. Now, basically for the luck, because obviously they do this whole thing. I love Quentin playing the card game. It's like, out of anyone, it's like, yeah, of course Quentin's going to be the card dude. Cards is his thing. And it's pretty sweet. One each time, and then when it came down to it, he used up all the magic in the room, so that was kind of a basic card game. And it's like, oh, I guess we'll play fair and square. And it's like, no, it was just pretty impressive. It was kind of like, yeah, look at you, Quentin, being all badass, with the card games and everything. What's actually kind of interesting? I didn't even think about this. I didn't even notice it last time. I'm trying to think back. It was like that in season 3's finale, wasn't it? Or did it get cut shorter? Because he was wearing a hat, so maybe I didn't really notice it in season 3's finale. I didn't notice that the actor who played Quentin, because obviously, like, he's got shorter hair. It's like, right, because, I mean, when every since the beginning, Quentin's always had long hair. So it's like, and so I didn't even think about that till just now. I was like, yeah, he's got short hair. It kind of took me out of it for a second. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even notice that, or really even kind of pay attention to that. But it's kind of interesting, like everything they did, you know. There's an interesting conversation between Penny and Katie, which is kind of interesting. Like, it seems like she's had a little time to process the whole, like, oh yeah, you're not my Penny. But she brings up the whole fact of, like, are we really going to help Morena? Give her 5, you know, last thing we need is her having, like, a nuclear bomb, you know, level amount of magic. You know, she can't be trusted. But, you know, Penny brings up the fact is, you know, he tried to get away from this world, you know, his world with all the fighting and stuff. And, you know, it's kind of interesting, kind of making Katie realize, like, hey, you're not alone in this, like, because I completely forgot it when she brought up the whole, like, Morena killed her mom. I was like, right, she did do that. Because I was like, I'm surprised in the conversation, I'm like, aren't Katie and Morena good? And I was like, no, they're not. Because Morena and Katie never made up. I mean, it's kind of pretty hard to make up when it's like the lady killed your mom. I was like, yeah, because I forgot Julia went to Katie after Morena had died. It's like that's how, like, Katie and Julia linked up, because it's like, Katie was the only person she could turn to after the whole Morena situation. I was like, right, I had completely forgotten about that. So, because it's like, you know, that's even more reason for her not to trust, you know, Morena in that regard. So she kind of gets her back in the end. But I just love how everything kind of ends up playing out, because it's like, oh yeah, Quentin ended up getting all the bad luck because it turns out Julia can't, you know, die. It is because of the whole, like, yeah, there's still some residual godhood in her, in a sense of, like, because it's like, Rhaenyra was like, yeah, killing gods are pretty hard. So even without her magic, she's still, you know, not easy to kill, you know. It'd take a god level killing thing to kill her. And so she wanted to take the bad luck, but her, you know, her godhood, I guess, prevented the spell from kind of going through, because it would have caused her harm. What's also interesting, though, is I was wondering what that was about, like her not being able to do magic, and it turns out it is kind of what I thought. It's like when she made those keys, she drained away all her godhood, and there goes her magic. So, because normally as a god, she wouldn't need the magic from, you know, because she'd be, you know, as a god, she's like a mythical creature where it's like the magic comes from within you. So without, well, it seems like even with magic in the air, she still can't perform magic. So I think it's just like I think there has to be like a seed, a spark of magic in you for you to use magic. And so literally everything inside of her magic related, her godhood, and that spark is kind of tapped completely. So until I guess her reserves slowly build back up, she can't use magic potentially. I don't know if that's going to be like a situation of magic is going forever for her, but even if it isn't, she's still god levels powerful, like can still handle her own. I do like that she chewed out Fall, because for him it's like, I made a deal with the library and everything, and she's like, yeah, and you betrayed all of us. The only reason why we have a target on our back now, because this was all in fact to protect them from the library and Irina, because, you know, because they jeopardized all that she set up, because like the McAllisters are the one who's got the reputation of, oh, we brought back magic, and they're also a thorn in her side potentially. So there's that. Because it also turns out the McAllisters actually had the potential to have an unlimited access to, they have black cards themselves, unlimited access to as many coins as they want for getting magic back and everything like that. So, but I love, like, all the good luck is working, even to the point Penny's in a disguise. He's like, this is stupid. And like a dude walks up to him basically like, oh, you look great, kind of basically getting him for a model and stuff like that. And I love that, like, it's like, oh man, Penny's like, we should take advantage of this good luck, get a couple coins ourselves. And Katie's like, no, Quentin's getting all the bad luck. If we do this, he could end up dying. Hey, there's free ice cream everywhere outside. And Katie's like, okay, like maybe we can squeeze in 2 more coins, you know, out of the deal. I love that. But I also love that Quentin's bad luck, it's like his spoon falls into the soup, because she's like, hey, it's just soup, it's not scalding hot, so there's no issue. Oh, the soup spills, paper towels. He cuts his finger on a paper towel. He's like, how the hell do I get a paper cut on a paper towel? Get called about his dad. That's a whole thing. It is kind of interesting how it works, because the moment he let go of the bear, like the normal luck kicked back in, the spell kind of, the chain of the spell broke, so he had to grab it again to kind of get back to bad luck. He falls, a ceiling fan almost crushes him, and it's just like, geez. Like, I kind of had a feeling, because the intro to the episode kind of brought up his dad. I was like, yeah, that's going to, you know, your bad luck doesn't just extend to you, it extends to everything around you, including your dad's situation. But luckily, I love how it just all kind of like how the luck thing worked, because the lady pulls out I was like, oh, bad magicians. And when she gets distracted by her stuff, her candy being knocked over, and it's like, oh, the picture flies off and lands in the shredder. I'm like, that's pretty impressive. That's a powerful ass spell. That's some awesome luck. And also the guy from the library comes in, but his contacts are messed up and stuff like that. And he's just like, I can't see anything. It's like, man, is that spell super good. What's interesting, though, is how Katie ends up using it, though. She basically, I guess, transferred all that bad luck into one of the coins. So now, Katie is benefiting from the good luck, and Morena's getting all the bad luck. It's kind of her middle finger to Morena. Even if it's not the Morena who killed her mom, it's like, I guess for her, it's like, no matter what timeline it is, you're still a sucky person. So I'm curious to see what ends up happening. Morena's going to be pretty screwed. Like, I guess maybe if she drops the coins, but I guess maybe she won't realize that the coins are the reason that's all happening to her. We see someone show up and be like, Morena, I guess that's going to be someone from her past coming after her. So we'll see if things kind of end just as shitty for 23 Morena as they did for Morena 40, so we'll see in that regard. But also Katie's taking advantage of this, and she's getting some benefits out of it too. I'm also curious will we get to see Frankie anymore too, man. I hope so. Just that luck stuff, that'd be nice to kind of have around when the situation calls for it. So it's actually kind of a sad note in the regard of, like, from the phone call that Quentin got, he finally listened to the voicemail. It sounds like things didn't go well with his dad, which sucks, Because, for him, it's like, he's talking to Julia. It's like, we literally sacrifice so much. I sacrificed my dad. You sacrificed being a goddess. For what? It's like, yeah, we brought magic back, but it's not like, the library has full access to it. But for Julia, it's like, the fact of the matter is we brighten the world back a little bit by bringing magic back. Yeah, we're in a complicated situation, but at the very least, it's like that there's a little bit more light to the world. So there's that. But there's that aspect of, like, if she had the choice, she'd do it all over again. But Quentin doesn't think because in the end, he thought, like, yes, I'm going to have to make this shitty sacrifice, but at least it would be for something. And it's like, in the end, it's like, it wasn't for anything, Because now it's like potentially his dad's dead, and Quentin's going to blame himself because it's like it was my choice to go on this quest and to bring magic back, which would bring back his dad's cancer and everything. So magic had been returned to the world and everything. It was in the air and stuff like that. So it mostly, even with the restrictions and stuff like that, it was still probably enough to bring his cancer back and everything. So it's kind of sad. Like these past few months that Quentin wasn't himself. He could have been spending with his dad, but that time was taken away from him by Fogg in the library because, Fogg was trying to hide him from all this situations that he caused in the first place, betraying him. It's like, I get it, you try to save your students, but it's just like Alice. You thought you were doing the right thing, but you were on the wrong side of all of this, Because even, Julia brought it up. It's like, you know what it cost me to bring magic back, and this is what you're doing with it, Because even Fogg recognizes how much he fucked up. That was one of the things he was kind of most guilty about what he did, So while that's all happening, there's a situation with Alice and the Santa Claus. I love that Santa's finding out about the books. He's like, you're literally telling me there are books that have records on everyone, their past and their future, whether they've been naughty or nice. He's like, and he's getting pissed because like how long he's been doing things his way. And it's like, they could have told me about this before I did my whole thing. But unfortunately, Alice was able to break him and her out. That is kind of an interesting aspect. It's like, I didn't even think about that. It's like, we need to get our books because if we leave our books here, our librarians will be able to track us down wherever we go. I also love Alice being like, oh, this is a fake wall. And she runs forward and slams into the wall. And it's like, why? And then the other time she goes through it slowly. It's like, why didn't you do that the first time, Alice? But she couldn't leave without, her friend's books. And I love Santa being like, just so you know, Alice, you're still on my good list. Because I think for Alice, it's about protecting him. Because for her, she, looks at it, it's like, I failed them the first time. And I have to get back to them. I've got to make sure they're safe because of everything I've done. Because I put them in this position that things coming after them too. So I think this is her trying to redeem herself after everything. So... But it turns out the books were taken because they were being rewritten. You know what I just thought about too that I haven't brought up about another aspect to this that hasn't come up yet? It's like, there's that whole, wasn't her name Cassandra? The girl that Sylvia took Penny to last season. The one who basically wrote all the books. They basically found an automated way to do it, but because magic was going down, she had to write all of it. But she looks exactly like Alice, so it's like we still never found out what that was, the hell that was all about. So that might be something we see kind of circle back. But when we see is like Santa kind of getting away in his sleigh and everything, I guess he must have found it, summoned it up or whatever. So I wonder, is that something he could just magically pop up, or did he kind of call it like a taxi or something, or like an Uber? But we see someone grabbing Alice when she's gathering books. Now immediately in my brain I jump to one person, Penny. Timeline 40 Penny, because let's not forget he's still down there, part of this whole library situation. So I think he probably saw Alice and he was like, whoa, that's what I think. Not less, because that did happen before we saw Santa get away. So not less Santa came back to get Alice. It's like, no, I'm not going to leave you here. I'd be cool with it either way, because it'd be interesting to see what they end up doing with Timeline 40 Penny. Like, obviously, like his whole situation in the underworld, like all Hades was setting him up to be, being like, oh, the fact of the matter is you've got a great destiny in front of you and all that, who you could be and what you're capable of, that type of thing. Like what Hades knew that we potentially didn't know about Penny. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that might be what's necessary when it comes to this whole situation. I also feel like, let's not forget, like, I mean, eventually that monster's killing gods. I mean, eventually it's going to come for Hades. So, I mean, I'd assume at some point in time it might potentially come to the underworld. Who knows? But that's what I'm immediately thinking. Not unless that was Santa Claus coming back for her. I'm not sure. Like I said, that scene of him getting away was after we saw someone grab Alice. I think. I'm pretty sure that was after, not before. Maybe I'm confusing that in my head. Either way. But my mind was kind of it potentially being Penny. Like I said, I don't remember the order the scenes took place. So a lot of interesting things went down in this episode. I'm very interested to see what happens, because like now they've got a balance dealing with this monster where Margot and Josh are there. So it's like, where is its next stop? You know, is it going to be, how's it going to handle this? Is it going to want to kill them now, or what? What's also going to happen in Fillory? Because I guess this also gets Bacchus out of the way. Maybe that's another reason why Margot did this, because like get Bacchus out of the way so she can go back to ruling Fillory, you know. But now like this thing's going to be there, so what's going to happen in that regard? They've also got to worry about the McAllisters coming for them as well as the library. So trouble basically on all fronts. So I'm very interested to see what the next episode has in store with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next one we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.